So, Michael, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Yes.
We went through this last week at the end of our Dune review. We went through the fact that it scored Rotten Tomatoes with a 55%. It has now gone down to 47%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that ties it with Eternals as the worst rated Marvel movie in the MCU. It is shocking, really, how bad things have been since Endgame. Like, this was meant to be the big movie to start Phase 5, and it's just awful. Like, I'm not really sure. Are we looking perhaps the death of Marvel soon? Is that going to happen? Because look, this movie still pulled in a bunch of money over the weekend, but it's going to be real interesting to see in the second weekend what the drop off is. In terms of the box office.
And this one was high budget, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yes. Again, I still expect it to make a shed load of money, but this could have made $1 billion. It could have, and it may only make like 700 million. So yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see. But yeah, what do you think? Are things looking bad for the future of the MCU?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the drop off is something one can only marvel at. There's just no way of making Ant-Man work. Oh wait, no, I've got it. Hey, Luke. Do I think that they can keep this dead, dying franchise going? I would say that they Ant-Man
and the Wasp.
You ruined the pun. Hello, and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host, Michael, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Luke. And this week, we are celebrating the Oscars and the lead up to the Oscars by looking at films that were nominated for Best Picture last year. And one such film of that type was The Power of the Dog. So, Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about The Power of the Dog?
Sure thing, Michael. So yes, we are, of course, continuing our look at last year's Oscar winners, or Oscar nominees, I guess. This movie, The Power of the Dog, did actually win an Oscar for Best Director. Did not win Best Picture, even though you and I thought it would. Anyway, The Power of the Dog is a 2021 revisionist Western psychological drama film written and directed by Jane Campion. Wait, Western? So let me get this straight. This is a Western, yet it's a psychological drama?
That don't make no sense to me.
I thought Westerns were just all about people shooting other people and the bad guys dying and Indians, getting massacred.
And like Mexicans being like, hey, we came to steal all your stuff.
Yeah, and the strong American hero coming in and saying, not today.
Not today, Jose.
You dirty wetbacks. And then just giving them a couple of shots. And again, I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just quoting.
No, you're just describing what it is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just quoting what was said back in the day.
And sometimes you're like a woman's hysterical, and then like the man slaps her, and then she falls in love with him. That's a classic.
Yeah, the slap and the kiss, the old slap and the kiss. That's how they used to do it back in the day. So yeah, what is all this bollocks about psychological drama? Why is it a revisionist? Why do we need to revise the West? The West, as Western movies, the American West, how it's idealized, for me is perfect. Why does this bloody... Oh my god, it's Jane Campion. I just realized it's a woman. It's not even a man. It's a woman who's not even from America. She's from New Zealand. She's from bloody New Zealand.
And wasn't this like produced by BBC Films too?
Bloody BBC Films. I'm looking it was in the New Zealand Film Commission. Oh my god.
Yeah, this is... Whatever happened to the American Film Commission?
I know. Oh my god. Oh well. This movie is off to an awful start. I don't know what the hell everybody was thinking producing this movie, but I'll tell you what, it's just flies in the face of everything we know about the American West. So yeah, we'll get into it anyway. So the movie was based on Thomas Savage's 1967 novel of the same title, by the way. And interesting, so it's semi-autobiographical.
What's a gay boy?
Well, it means he was a cowboy.
That's true.
So
doesn't mean he was gay.
That's got me thinking, actually, all this talk about the revisionist West and the fact that, this isn't, an idealized version of the old American West.
Yeah.
And it's based off a book which was actually written by someone who lived in the American West.
Yeah, but what does he know?
And was a cowboy. Oh, maybe things that we...
More like a soy boy.
The movies that we grew up with, well, I didn't grow up with, of course, but people of older generations, Maybe those movies were actually myths and just not based in reality at all. I don't know. It's got me thinking. Maybe we'll delve into that actually later. But anyway, Michael, this movie was directed by Jane Campion, not Champion. The screenplay was by Jane Campion, and it's based on The Power of the Dog by Thomas Savage. I don't know. It just feels right to say it like that, you know.
Hot dog.
The power of the dog.
Hot dog. Look at that sexy twink.
Okay, calm down. The movie stars Benedict Come on My Back. No, it's Cumberbatch. God, we gotta stop. Gotta get these filthy thoughts out of our mind. Kirsten Dunst. I'm sorry. No, I mean that doesn't really work, obviously, because that's a female body part. Yeah. So sorry. Jesse. Jesse Plemons. Do anything with that?
Jesse already seems like a kind of gay name to me. Like, don't you call someone a Jesse? But like you say, like, oh, you're a bloody Jesse, you Jesse. You're like being homophobic.
Big-blooded Jesse.
Yeah, but I can't think of anything for like Plemons. That's even though it seems like it should be a
what
like
about
an easy thing to make gay.
Like balls, Plemons. You know, this could be a word for balls. I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's just assume that Plemons is already a rude word.
Cody Smith McPhee.
That's easy. Shit, fuck me. Because that's
Cody,
what they like to do.
Shit, fuck me. Thomasin McKenzie, Genevieve Lemon, Keith Carradine, and Francis Conroy. So, the movie was released in 2021 on November the 17th in the UK and the US. It was released a week earlier in Australia and New Zealand. Why on earth would... Oh, yeah, because it was set in New Zealand, and Jane Campion's from New Zealand. And it was produced
filmed in New Zealand?
What did I say?
You said set in New Zealand.
Oh, yeah, obviously it was filmed...
Set in Montana.
Yeah, and imagine Benedict Cumberbatch saying Bronco Henry in a New Zealand accent over and over again.
Bronco Henry.
He told me to see. Told me you see a man's asshole from a mile away.
There's never been like a New Zealand kind of western, you know, like anything like the Maori are cool, right? They deserve a western.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, I forgot that. That's a real revisionist one.
The budget was 35 to 39. Fuck, I can't believe I just said that.
Oh really? That's pretty funny.
Michael, what's the budget?
What did you say? 39 to something. 39 million?
Is that your guess?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, 39 million.
Oh wow, you're correct. It's 35 to 39 million. I think you would have got near that anyway.
Yeah, probably. I might have said like 30. I feel like, I might have said 30. I could have gone as low as 20. That's probably the lowest I would have got, which would have put me almost at halfway. But...
less than half, yes. Anyway, what about the box office for The Power of the Dog?
Who was watching this? Like, surely this was like some kind of film that wasn't even released in the cinema. I swear. Who was watching this?
Oh, he's hot. He's hot.
Okay. So I don't know, like, but then like it could have made like a ridiculously low amount. I'm probably gonna get it wrong. Did it make like 800,000? That's how much it made.
Oh, Michael. You just are over less than half.
Oh.
It's congratulations. It's 417,000. So anyway, Michael, let's talk about The Power of the Dog. Did you like this movie?
Yeah. This film, it was one of those films where it's kind of like, you're watching it, you're kind of like, oh, everything that's happening is very interesting. It kind of reminded me a little bit of The Phantom Thread, which I don't know why that's the film I thought of, but just like a film where it's like kind of all of these like interesting people with all their weird things going on. I think my criticism, if I wanted to have a criticism, which I very well could, is that I feel like it seems like some of the interesting people kind of get forgotten. The most obvious example for me being like Jesse Plemons, and I know like you could say, well, that's just like the nature of it being a kind of unconventional narrative where it kind of switches focus. But it did leave me thinking like, oh man, I wanted to see what was happening with Jesse Plemons, and suddenly it's turned into a teasing gay porno. But overall, I still liked it in kind of like, oh, that's cool, but definitely I'm not going to pretend that I wasn't aware of the kind of unconventional narrative of it all.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure it has an unconventional narrative, to be honest. I mean, what do you mean by narrative, actually?
Well, I guess like kind of just like the way, like, rather than being, I don't know, about like kind of one person's kind of story of, like one singular person's kind of character arc, it kind of jumps around a bit, where it's like, first of all, like you start off with like Jesse Plemons, and like it seems to be mostly focused on him, and then like by the end of it, he's like way less of a focus, and it's all about this kind of gay thing going on. And also, I mean, there's the fact that it doesn't have like I don't want to say it doesn't have a plot, because obviously it does, but it's much more kind of of a, well, like you say, psychological drama rather
Yes.
than, like a kind of more kind of action adventure thing.
I think-
which, yeah.
I think
It's
Jesse Plemons is just there to show the contrast between Phil and himself. The
Yeah.
contrast between just this modern version of masculinity, this modern man, and obviously Phil, who is obsessed with
old
the
school.
obsessed with the past, and wants to project this idea of masculinity, which of course is
Is a central theme.
toxic. Yes.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, some might say toxic, and of course,
A bit like Anthrax.
yeah, that's the whole. Good point. Yeah, good point. Anthrax is toxic, although I'm not. Is it toxic or is it?
Yeah, it's probably one of those things like, I don't know, like everything is wrong. Whatever you think anything is, it's not that. It's how it is.
Okay, so this is the best gay cowboy movie since Brokeback Mountain, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, I was kind of thinking that too. Like, obviously, I to be honest, and I really probably should have. I still haven't seen Brokeback Mountain,
Wow.
even though it's like a very classic film, and like it would have made so much sense to watch it for this specifically.
I mean,
I
to be
didn't.
honest, that they are different movies.
I know,
gay-
yeah.
It's gay. It's like the gay cowboy genre is a wide range.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to make. You reminded me of a joke I was going to make, but I didn't because I forgot. I wanted to be like, it sure is nice to have a film that makes being gay sinister again. That was gonna be my little comment about this film. Just because I was thinking, like, again, I haven't seen Brokeback Mountain, but I assume it's kind of like a film where it's very sympathetic to kind of the gayness of it all in Brokeback Mountain. Whereas in this film, obviously, I don't think this film is, I don't think this film's like anti-gay, but it obviously has a character who is, problematic. Is that like a woke thing to say? In his expression of kind of masculinity while also being gay. So it's like, now we've achieved true equality. We can have the kind of the problematic characters be gay. We did it.
Well, it's not new in cinema to have problematic characters be gay who, are express their masculinity in a toxic way because they are gay and they have to hide it. That's not new.
That's true, actually, yeah, because it's literally, what's it called? American Beauty.
It's a trope. It's a well-worn trope.
Yeah,
but
damn it.
Yes. So it's a look at masculinity, masculine ideals, and of course, there's no better place to look at that than the American West, and of course, it is. We love to use this word, a subversion of those
Rian Johnson.
Of those ideals. Just every time we say that, can you please not say that name? He's not the only person who does that.
I know, but in my head, he is. He's the only person to have ever subverted anything.
Okay, so this movie, I think, is a nice movie. You, I think, do have to look at. After watching this movie, because I knew there was meaning, because you could pick up on stuff like why is this guy Benedict Cumberbatch, who his character is Phil, why is he so obsessed with the dog Shadow on the hill? Why is he so obsessed with that? And it's like, okay, there's some metaphors here, there's hidden meanings throughout the movie, and you just gotta work. You just gotta
wait until Luke tells you. Like that's how it is.
Yeah, you got to work it out, or you can watch videos that help you. And obviously, you get an inkling of what stuff means, and then you watch these videos, and everything is fleshed out. Or you read interviews from Jane Campion, which and when you start to put the pieces together, you can fully appreciate this movie and fully appreciate how good it actually is.
Yeah, see, when we get into the spoilers for the end of this discussion, when you've fully elucidated all the details of the symbolism and stuff, we'll have to get into that age-old discussion of to what extent is a film's quality dependent on being able to pick up on the stuff easily versus it being like deep stuff you have to look into. Because I always find that an interesting discussion, and but it'll be interesting because obviously I agree with you that sometimes like you hear these things and like you can kind of see them there and it's like, oh yeah, that's really interesting, and then other times you see things you're like, oh, I don't really know, that kind of sounds like the director's making stuff up. So I'll be interested to hear what's going on.
I don't think Jane Campion's making any stuff up.
Yeah.
I don't think she is. It's very, to me, it's very obvious and what she's saying. And when you watch the movie, it's like, oh yeah, that lines up with what she's saying.
Okay, yeah, good.
So let's get into nitpicks. How many do you have?
I've got, okay, so I don't actually technically have any nitpicks, but I do have a very slightly funny story because I didn't have any nitpicks.
Go on then.
Okay, my very slightly funny story is that when I was watching this, I went to go make lunch, and the time when I paused to go make my lunch was right after Twinkie McGee cut open dissected the rabbit, and I was like, making my lunch, and I was thinking to myself, oh, it's pretty messed up of him to, rabbit, like kind of mulling it over in my head. And then I was like, I guess he didn't do that thing where, you cut up the rabbit while it's still alive. And then in my head, I was like, what's that called again? And then I was like, oh, vivisection. But like, for some reason, I said it out loud. So I was like just in the kitchen, just casually, and I just went to myself, oh, vivisection. But unfortunately, what would have made it slightly funnier is if someone was actually around who would have then been like, what did you just say? But just like the idea of like that somebody could have been around was kind of funny to me. I was like, imagine if I was in the room while I was went to myself, oh, vivisection.
I thought you were going to say, oh yeah, my sister heard me or something.
Yeah, which would have made it funnier, but I don't believe in lying.
Yeah, it wasn't really that good a story then, was it? So yeah, thanks for that.
It was a story about an almost entertaining story.
I don't have any nitpicks about it, but I don't think I said, because again you were so keen to tell that incredible story.
Thank you.
But yeah, I don't have any nitpicks, so we can move on then to talking about the plot. Charismatic rancher Phil Burbank inspires fear and awe in those around him. When his brother brings home a new wife and her son, Phil torments them until he finds himself exposed to the possibility of love.
Yes.
The possibility of love, yes. And yeah, obviously he torments them because she's a woman, and gay people hate women, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's actually a really good way of putting it.
Yeah. So again, with the plot, I can understand why you thought it might be about Jesse Plemons, his character, more so because he is, of course, in the opening few scenes.
Yeah, and he's very sympathetic.
Yes, and the what do you call him, Twinkie McGee?
Yes, Twinkie McGee.
Yes. And by the way, is Cody Smith-McPhee gay? Because obviously he's just playing a character here.
Yeah.
I don't
Cody Sweet McPhee. What's his name?
Cody
Smith McPhee.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. He looks like, I don't know. He looks so easily like he could be gay, and also he's in he's kind of like in acting, which you feel like a lot more of them are gay.
Great. Yeah. So Cody Smith McPhee's character, Peter, really in the second half of the movie, he becomes one of the main characters, and he's away at medical school. He doesn't seem like an important character, or at least not one of the top two most important characters in the movie, like you said. And then he becomes one of the top two important characters, and he exposes a lot of the themes in this movie. And yeah, it is a slow burner. There's not a lot that actually happens, and you have to look at the deeper meaning. That's the thing. Every scene pretty much has got some symbolism going on, and if you watch videos or read articles, you can find those deeper meanings, and that's what I find interesting. I like when that happens, because it's intriguing. It's like solving a mystery. It's like, oh, this is what that means here, and this is what this means here, and when someone explains it to you, that's very nice, because you don't.
Yeah, and it makes it more interesting on the old rewatch.
Yeah, you don't need to do any of the hard work if someone just explains it to you,
that's
and
true.
You can go, oh, that's clever, I like that. So, but that's the thing, yeah, I think once you know about everything, and you've seen the movie, once, you can go back, rewatch it, and you can appreciate it more. So that is important, I guess, as well. So yeah, what did you think of the plot in general, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the thing is, it is so much of a kind of psychological thing. I guess, if the plot in simple terms, if it had to be summarized, would be about the kind of manipulation of Benedict Cumberbatch in terms of what he's doing, like the manipulation he's doing, and that kind of kind of subtle conflict between him and Kirsten Dunst, which obviously is interesting and is kind of intriguing. It's kind of, I guess, the thing is, it's one of those things where it's kind of intriguing in terms of what's kind of going on here. That's sort of, at least that's what I kind of felt, where I was like, oh, what's going on here? What's his deal? Why is he messing with Kirsten Dunst quite as much as he is? And I had my theories, but that was kind of it, the intrigue of this kind of when you've got characters kind of messing with each other. It kind of reminded me of There Will Be Blood, where you've got characters kind of just messing with each other, and it's these, what do they call them, power plays? Is that the term, when people are kind of kind of in a subtle social ways, they're kind of messing with each other?
Well, yeah, like psychopaths.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so we'll get into the movie now. So in 1925, in Montana, wealthy ranch-owning brothers Phil and George Burbank meet widow and inn-owner Rose Gordon during a cattle drive. It's good that Benedict Cumberbatch can do an American accent, right?
Yeah. So, because obviously he already has done Doctor Strange. Because I was thinking to myself,
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, he's doing an American accent, blah 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 blah. And then I was like, oh wait, he has done one before, so I suppose it makes sense.
It's good that he's not like Liam Neeson, you know,
Yes,
another
exactly.
Family Guy reference.
Yeah, we're getting too many Family Guy references here.
This Cal drive is going to be 2-3 days, you know, and
it says like something like it's must be 100 furlongs and who knows how many fathoms or something like that.
Yeah, come on, we got to rustle up some cattle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't sound like that, but yeah. So he does a good job in this movie in general. He's great. He's great in this movie. He is incredible, really.
Yeah, he is good. I think he plays his role well, and you kind of like. I remember one time our good friend of the show, YMS, he criticized the movie 1917 for saying that he found the Benedict Cumberbatch cameo distracting, which is like a funny thing to say because it's kind of like you can't really blame him as an actor for being in a movie. But having said that, he's one of those people who's kind of like so distinctive that it's really difficult not to just think to yourself, oh, it's Benedict Cumberbatch, because you know he's got a weird face. And with that said, to his credit, I feel like with this film, there's not like too much of a sense of just, oh, it's Benedict Cumberbatch in a cowboy film. You know, like you don't feel like you're watching Benedict Cumberbatch in a cowboy film so much as you feel like you're watching an actor play a cowboy well.
So the kind-hearted George is quickly taken in with Rose, but the coarse and volatile Phil dislikes her, believing she only wants George's money. And yeah, my first note on this movie is you can tell Phil is gay because of how bitchy he is.
That's really funny to me.
I like his character though. You know, there needs to be more characters like him in movies. You know.
Yeah, he's a real Craig Revel Horwood. Darling, honestly, I thought this little flower thing you did, it was a disaster.
Yeah, I love it because
I thought it was pedestrian. I thought you were flat-footed.
He's just completely different. Like, he's just gay, so it's like, yeah, he's just like Craig Revel Horwood. but that's the thing. He is like his, you know, that's the thing. He portrays himself as masculine, you know, as this, you know, guy who you don't want to mess with, but you know, underneath it all, he's just a little gossipy gay, you know. And that'll never change. No,
well, yeah, I do like that, and I would agree with you. Like, he does have that kind of stereotypical kind of personality of being gay beneath his masculine facade.
Yes, and again, that's not what was intended, because of course that's like a homophobic thing to assume, like all gay people are like bitchy.
Although I believe many a man has once said that, or indeed maybe even a woman has once said that stereotypes exist for a reason. So I'm not saying all gay people, but I'm saying there must have been at least quite a few of them being bitchy for us to have come to that conclusion, for the world to collectively have decided they are.
Right, yeah. I mean, obviously, look, we're going to be talking about gay stuff in this review. So, yeah, we're going to be referencing... I'm sometimes going to be making jokes about gays, you know, in general. So
that will weed out the snowflakes.
Yeah, I know. Also, I love the quiet contempt that George has for Phil. Like, I love the scene where he's like, do you want to have a shot? And he's like, no, I'm not. And then once Phil leaves the room, then George drinks.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, waits for him to leave the bar. That's great. I love that. It's just like he doesn't say anything. He doesn't try to like own him or alpha him at any point in the movie. He's just like has this quiet contempt for him, and he's like, there's no need to get into an argument to prove that I'm the bigger man or whatever. He's just like, I'll deal with this like pathetic child almost. Like that's how he sees him. Yeah, which is I
like that because it's kind of like you could. I mean, obviously I suppose it kind of makes sense because there are lots of other characters who like really let Phil get to them. So it's kind of good that you have this like George character who kind of shows like a different kind of spin on it. Where for him, it's just like what Phil does kind of just rolls off his back. And obviously he's like, oh, I'll just, get my own back in petty ways and not let it get to me.
Yeah, no, he is.
And not become an alcoholic.
A more modern version of masculinity is George, yes. So Phil also belittles Rose's teenage son Peter, whom he derides as weak and effeminate. Wow, that's crazy. Imagine saying that about Cody Smith McPhee.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Imagine calling him Twinkie McGee.
Imagine calling him Twinkie McGee.
Yeah.
George and Rose marry, and she moves into the Burbank ranch house while Peter attends medical school. That's the thing, Peter goes off to medical school, so you assume he's not that big a character until he comes back, and then comes on Benedict Cumberbatch's back.
He does.
He doesn't actually do that.
Yeah, this film is such a tease. I was thinking, this film is literally like, You know, you're like a gay guy, and you're like, oh yeah, great. You know,
Gay
they're a
cowboys.
cowboy. Yeah, like you got and I feel like this is a good kind of porn dynamic for a gay thing. You got like the kind of gruff, kind of manly gay, and then you got the little twinkie gay, and it's like, yes, this is everything I want. And then you just get completely cockblocked.
And he is his step uncle, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, everything about it is a porn scenario. If they were slightly worse actors, that would just sell it, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So the thing is, it is a familiar trope in movies, you know, anyone belittling another person for being gay must be gay themselves, right?
Yeah,
that is always the case. And that's the thing, this movie is, you know, it has to have that trope. It's,
you know, I mean, there is definitely that idea of projecting. That's what it's called, isn't it? Like, obviously, and it, you know, it makes sense within the context of the time as well. Because I think, like, nowadays, kind of saying, like, well, every single person, because nowadays being gay is more accepted. So it's like, if someone's gay, they can more realistically just be gay, and they don't have to spend all their time being performatively homophobic. But I would imagine back in the day, when being gay was much less accepted, there would be way more men in the closet, and therefore probably way more gay men doing the old, like, hey, don't look at me. Look at how gay this other guy is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural thing, I guess, to diffuse suspicion. You know, it's like, you know, you don't want to be the guy who's saying, actually, I think being gay is fine.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to be that guy back in the 1920s.
Yeah, exactly. It's like how in like the 1600s, probably, you had loads of witches accusing other women of being witches, whereas nowadays, they just come out and admit to being witches.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, witch is like being gay, yeah. But anyway, he like, I like how Phil mocks the flowers.
Oh yeah,
and you know, he prods it like a butthole, you know. Which actually I don't know.
He shoves his tongue in it and opens it up.
He doesn't do that.
He doesn't do that.
But you know, that's the thing. Like with this skill set, like that Cody Smith McPhee, whose character is Peter, this skill set that Peter has is a very similar skill set to what Phil possesses with his rope skills.
Ropes. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's just it's a similar skill. It's like very, very similar. Just one is considered masculine and the other is considered feminine. You know,
the arbitrariness of masculinity. Here's another piece of symbolism for you. You could say that the fact that he literally burns the flower of Twinkie McGee. What's he called? What's the name of the actual guy? The actual character. Yeah,
it's called Peter.
Peter, such an easy name to remember. There we go. When he burns, he literally destroys the flower of Peter, which you could say is very much him literally expressing his desire to deflower Peter, aka to take his man virginity. How about that for some symbolism?
Why did you need to say man and virginity?
Just because
that's such a stupid phrase.
Just to separate it from the regular virginity that only exists for women.
Okay, so anyway, George organises a dinner party with his parents and the governor and pressures Rosa into a piano recital. George reveals that Phil was a brilliant student at Yale, in contrast to his rough nature. Oh yeah, he likes it rough in nature, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Rose is unable to perform due to Phil's earlier belittlement. So this mystery starts to surround Phil. Why on earth is this cowboy, why is he a cowboy? He was this brilliant student at Yale, yet he, apparently behaves completely different to how you would expect. What made him this way? Why is the fat brother the one who wears a suit? Like, why doesn't Phil wear a suit? He's clearly smart enough. There's a reference earlier to how George was the one that dropped out of college.
Yeah.
Obviously, Phil never had to, but yet Phil's never in a tuxedo. So, what the hell is going on here?
Yes.
Yes, so humiliated and upset by Phil's behaviour, Rose starts drinking, becoming an alcoholic by the time Peter arrives home from a break from school. By the way, you did want to point out the cinematography.
Oh, yes, yeah. So basically, the main thing I was thinking about it, where it jumped out, is when they go for a picnic, and obviously they stop in a really nice place. I think it's kind of one of those standard things where it doesn't get too much credit because it's kind of like, they're just filming in a nice place, like a very pretty place, with like the mountains and the rolling hills and all that kind of stuff. So I can't really, at the end of the day, in a way, it's more impressive to have good cinematography if, you're in Scunthorpe. That's what I thought of. But obviously, nonetheless, it's still pretty to look at. I wouldn't say it's the biggest thing because I kind of would expect that from my contemporary westerns. But it's definitely there. Would you not agree?
Yeah, of course. The thing is, there are some pretty vistas, as one might say.
Yes.
But the thing is, you're filming it in New Zealand. That is really easy mode.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Like, try and do that in, I don't know, fucking Birmingham. Like,
Yeah.
try and get some of those shots in Birmingham. You can't do it, you know. Like, try and get those shots in anywhere but New Zealand, and I'll give you praise for it. But like, getting those,
I do agree with you. New Zealand is easy mode.
yeah, it's like, oh, you want to make a beautiful movie? Well, let's just head down to New Zealand. Let's do that. We can have all the mountains in the background. You know, you just go out for a little car ride, and all of a sudden, it's the most beautiful fucking thing you've ever seen. You know, right in the background. We can shoot here. And yeah, so why would I praise it? No, obviously it's very nicely shot, very beautiful. Not as good as Dune though, you know.
Not as good as Dune. Well, the thing is, you've got to bear in mind that reality can't compete with our computers, as George Lucas foresaw.
Yeah, but it's not just computers though with Dune. Of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that's the thing. I saw Dune last week, and it's like, wow, the cinematography is epic. That's the thing. Jane Campion won for Best Director. The Power of the Dog, I believe it only won one Oscar.
Yeah, I actually saw it's like tied for a record-breaking highest number of nominations lost. So it was nominated. So I think 10 things it was nominated for, it didn't get. But It did get Best Director.
It was nominated for 12.
Oh, okay, so maybe 11 then.
Making the film the first to win only in that category since The Graduate in 1968. So that's the thing. I don't know how you can win Best Director.
And then everything else is average.
And then you can't win everything else. Like, you know, like you can maybe win Best Screenplay or Adapted Screenplay and not win anything else, of course. But Director, I mean, there's got to be, you know, either like the screenplay, you know, or maybe any of the technical awards, you know, or even like Best Picture, I guess. You know, if it's like Everything Together was incredible. But yeah, I don't know how you can just win Best Director, and again, it hasn't happened since 1968. So again, the logic of the Academy, it doesn't really make sense there. But whatever, she was the favorite. She was like a huge favorite. Like she was gonna easily win, and of course she did. So whatever, the Academy likes some people some years, and doesn't like some people other years. But yeah, that's the thing. I think the Academy liked her, but perhaps because of the themes in this movie, people didn't perhaps like it as much, because you know there are some older Academy voters who don't like the idea of gay cowboys.
That is true, yeah. That's why Crash won in 2004 or whatever.
Yeah, instead of Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah.
You know,
Coda is the Crash of 2022.
Phil and his men taunt Peter, and he isolates himself in his room, where he dissects a rabbit he has caught. So I want to talk about Cody Smith-McPhee, Michael.
Yes.
As Peter, he is the guy that says, "That's the thing. He's white," in the Elvis clips to Tom.
Yes.
To Tom Hanks. Yeah. Oh, you only just realised that?
Well, you know what? Yes, I only just realised that. You happy, Luke?
So let's reenact the scene right now. Who do you want to be, Tom Hanks or Cody Smith-McPhee?
I think I'll be Tom Hanks.
Okay. That's the thing. He's white.
He's white?
Dun, 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 dun.
How many times does he repeat it? He says it like twice.
I think he says it 3 times.
Okay. He's white.
Yeah, that's the thing. He goes, he's white? I know he does only say it twice, and then he walks over.
Yeah, and then he says it like with like cash money in his eyes. With dollar signs. He's white.
He's white.
He's white. Oh wow.
But that's the thing. This Cody Smith-McPhee, back to him. Once we do the Elvis review next year, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But how can one man just look so weird? You know, like he looks like he is out of a horror movie, and you know that is great, honestly, for an actor. He chose a great profession, like he did. Like yes, he looks weird, but that's good for being an actor because you stand out. Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. I actually, I agree. I mean, the thing is, like, there's a few other like Barry Keoghan, who was in the you know, whatever it's called, what's that? What's that film?
Banshees of Inisherin, Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yeah. And obviously Killing of a Sacred Deer is like a very weird kind of psychological thriller. He's got a weird face. I would also kind of say I think Paul Dano has a bit of a weird face, but not quite as weird. Yeah, I'm not sure, and I don't know whether or not I could say anyone has more of a weird face. This guy does have quite a weird face.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think like we have like a growing number of like young actors who have very strange faces. A generation of Steve Buscemi's.
Yeah, okay. So let's get back to the movie. So in a glade away from the mansion, Phil masturbates with a delicate scarf belonging to his late mentor, Bronco Henry. Yes, I wonder who was the Bronco in that relationship.
Yeah.
Peter enters a bivouac What is that word?
A bivouac.
Bivouac.
Bivou.
In the glade, and finds
a temporary camp without tents or cover, used especially by soldiers or mountaineers.
And finds a stash of Bronco Henry's homoerotic magazines depicting nude men. And in one of these videos I saw, which was this interesting point was made that they are done in like Greek style, and and of course this guy Phil studied obviously the classics at Yale. So he would have studied this, and he's like, he wants to go back to a time when,
gays were men.
Well, yeah, back in ancient Greece when homosexuality was accepted, basically.
Make gays manly again.
Yeah, exactly. Like it wasn't weird to be a homosexual in Greece in ancient Greek times. They invented gay sex, in fact, apparently.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's another nice message in the movie that a little hidden thing to uncover.
Yeah, because they kind of like the pictures do kind of look like those old Greek statues, what they got nowadays.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the point I was making. Yeah. So he observes Phil, does Peter, bathing in a pond with Bronco's scarf around his neck before Phil chases him away. So we can infer from this that Phil is gay and he loves Bronco Henry.
Yes.
And obviously he hides this scarf in his trousers again, and of course. What happened earlier on in the movie, Michael? See, none of these fucking videos caught this, but I caught this. What happened earlier on in the movie when George and Rose are having sex? What does Phil do?
Does he do something with a sash or something? Does he do something with the scarf?
He goes somewhere, doesn't he? He gets out of his room and goes somewhere.
Oh, so he probably went to go masturbate with his scarf.
Well, do you remember what he goes and does or not?
No.
He goes and touches Bronco Henry's saddle. So.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, of course.
So yeah, he can hear his brother having sex. They're having sex, and he's like frustrated because he can't do that. It's like he wants to do that, but he can't. So he goes to visit Bronco Henry.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it
shows the gay thing.
Mm-hmm, yeah, shows that's his. Two people having sex. Well, let's go and see Bronco Henry. So there you go. That's a clue there as well. So yeah. Anyway, Phil is gay. That's pretty clear. Masturbating.
I thought he just wanted to fuck horses. I totally misunderstood.
Yeah, masturbating with his scarf. His scarf is down his trousers, and of course he stays away from everyone. This is his own private area. It's pretty clear this is the only place he can feel himself, and he can he can dream about Bronco Henry, etc. And he can do away with all the toxic masculinity that he projects. So yeah, and again, you have to imagine they had a relationship when Phil was a twink,
Yes.
And that has to be
that's the gay circle of life.
The gay circle of life, yes. So. Were you surprised that this character was gay, Michael? Were you? Because I knew about this movie. I knew about this movie before I watched it, so I don't think I was. Were you?
So I wasn't. I did know about this movie. I didn't really. I couldn't really remember it in exact detail because I could only remember kind of what I'd heard about it like a year ago. But I was like in my head, I was like, I'm pretty sure there is some kind of gay thing going on in this movie. So yeah, when I saw it, I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think obviously I worked it out. I think before it had been explicitly revealed.
Yes. And yeah, so why has Phil pursued this cowboy life? Well, it's probably because of Bronco Henry, and that's why he takes his anger out again on Peter. I think because maybe he is angry at the fact that Peter can just be like a sissy, as he says, and he doesn't really care what people think of him. And he's like, oh, I wish I could be.
Yeah, he's jealous.
A little sissy boy walking around, being all gay, but I can't have to be a masculine man who pretends who pretends he's into women and beer. God damn it. That's it. Like he's jealous of people. I mean, it's kind of it is a little bit like bloody what's it called? American Beauty. How like Kevin Spacey, the hero that he is, just doesn't care what other people think, and obviously that creates a resentment from that other guy. There is a natural resentment there. It's like, how come you get to do that and other people can't? There's an anger right there. Sam Elliott didn't like this.
Yes.
He complained on Mark Maron's WTF podcast.
Yeah, I think this is what I remembered, because I think you mentioned, I think this was a cold open. I think we did a cold open about this, yeah.
Yes, so this is what Sam Elliott said. They're running around in chaps and no shirts. There's all these illusions of homosexuality throughout the movie.
Wow.
Again, I don't think they're illusions.
Yeah.
They're pretty clear.
There's this slight implication of homosexuality when they fuck each other up the butt.
Sam, I think they're gay.
That's him when he watches gay porn. It's like, I was watching this film about these two builders who needed to oil themselves up to fit into a really tight hole, and there was all this illusion of homosexuality in it.
What's happening to our American society today? I can't even go on. I don't know what's the gay version of Pornhub. Gay Pornhub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, you'd think there would be like specific gay porn sites.
Oh yeah, I like how you don't know. You're like,
you think it'd be one of those weird gays.
I mean, probably. I don't know. Sam Elliott added of Campion, "What the fuck does this woman from down there, from New Zealand, know about the American West?"
Wow.
In response to Variety, Campion said, "I'm sorry, he was being a little bit of a bitch. I like this put down. He's not a cowboy, he's an actor. And the West is a mythic space, and there's a lot of room on the range." And I agree with all that. But she should have just delivered the fucking killer blow, which is she is adapting a book from an actual cowboy.
Yeah.
Like, this fucking guy wrote this book, and he was a cowboy. It's semi-autobiographical. I don't think he actually murdered anyone, which we haven't mentioned yet. Obviously, that's what the Peter character does. And, you know, that this guy was basing himself off Peter. He was basing the Peter character off him.
The only similarity is they both look weird, let's say.
Yeah, let's say that, yeah. Even though he didn't look weird, he looked like conventionally like attractive. Like he just looked
cool.
like a normal guy, really.
Well done him.
Yeah, I know. So he must be
He must be really pissed off.
Yes, that Cody Smith McPhee is playing him. Yeah.
Yeah, like how would you feel if like you like write your kind of autobiography? It's like it's being made into a film. Like, yeah, great, and it's like we got this weird bug-eyed freak to play you. Oh no, that's not worth it.
But that's the thing. Like, Jane Campion took the story from an actual fucking cowboy who lived in this time period, and Sam Elliott is just an actor who's from fucking Sacramento, I think. So, or he's from the Pacific Northwest. He's not actually.
He's in Family Guy, and he's really cool in Family Guy.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's just like, I can't believe Sam Elliott said that. It's just such a fucking stupid thing to say. Number one, and number two, like he's just like wrong, like in general.
I must admit, like I am kind of not sure like how angry he was. Like, was he like kind of saying it in like a jovial kind of like, I just couldn't believe, like kind of like, you know, like what's the word, like almost exasperated kind of like, I just couldn't believe it was so gay, like why is it so gay? Or was he like really angry?
I think I remember hearing the audio. Of course you can probably look it up, and I think he's like has a quiet contempt for it, like he's just he's not really like he's not doing it
not as bad
in a joking way, but no, I mean it's
so that's somewhere between the spectrum of joking and really angry. If it was like, I don't know, I feel like if it was more angry, it would be more cringe for him. But I guess it's still pretty cringe.
I mean, it's still the same. He genuinely feels that way. He genuinely was pissed off, which is pathetic, obviously, and rightfully, you know, Jane Campion mocks him for it. Phil makes amends with Peter after this, offering to plait him a lasso from rawhide before he turns.
I'm pretty sure it is pronounced Platt, by the way, Luke. Are you okay with that reality?
Is it Platt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even though it's spelled like that, I think it's a French thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the thing is, I thought it Platt sounded right, but I was like, well, it's obviously
it's not spelled Platt
because it's got a AI in it. So it's
I choose to believe you just mispronounced it so people wouldn't think you were gay because you knew anything about hair.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm really exposing myself as a straight guy here.
Yeah.
Phil is impressed, I think, by him tolerating the abuse because he goes to see some birds and everyone's calling him. I'm going to say this word because it's said in the. In the movie, a faggot. They call him that.
Yeah, a faggot. They call him a faggot.
Okay, calm down. They call him, you know, a Nancy. You know, they're like just abusing him.
They call him a sissy.
Yes. He doesn't care, does he? Like, Peter just walks through all these people abusing him, and he doesn't care. And I think Phil respects that. And I think maybe Phil sees an opportunity here to perhaps take him under his wing, because maybe he sees himself in this kid, and of course this kid has literally seen him
gay,
naked, masturbate. So I think that right there is that makes
sense.
There's a few things going on. Like, he's trying to get him on side so he doesn't tell anyone, but also it's like, I kind of respect this kid, and so that's when things change. And I think it's pretty obvious that the dynamics that existed between Bronco Henry and Phil are the same dynamics that exist between Phil and Peter.
Being replicated.
Yes. One stage, Phil was this dandy. He got called a sissy by other cowboys, perhaps. And then,
don't worry, I'll teach you not to be a sissy by I'll fuck the sissy out of you.
Okay, yeah. And Bronco Henry was the only one who showed understanding. and taught him basically to be this, to get past it, you need to be this man. That's how you get past it. And so it was a love that Phil had for Bronco Henry, more than just the fact that he was gay. He confided in him. Yeah, it's like he was a mentor as well. Now let's talk about obviously the power of the dog thing, because Phil is, he's looking at this hill and it's like nobody else can see what I can see or what Bronco Henry could see. And he says, Bronco Henry taught me to see things that other people can't. And basically, immediately once Peter sees the hill, he says, "Oh, the shadow looks like a dog." And he, Phil's like, "How can you see that? How can you see that? That's incredible. You just saw that just then?"
Yes.
And clearly, Peter has this skill. He has this ability to see things others can't, and that is perhaps the power of the dog. That's one of the interpretations of it. Peter can manipulate Phil because he has the power of the dog, because he can see things that's none of the other straight cowboys can. He actually can see a deeper meaning and can see past people. The facade, can see their true insecurities, and therefore that allows him to obviously
see past how things seem.
Yes, and he can obviously then go on to murder Phil, which he of course does eventually. So do you like that interpretation? Because there's another couple, but that is seemingly that is one of them. Yes.
I would say that seems like it would probably be a bit more of kind of like a kind of basic kind of intuitive interpretation. Like he literally kind of like he sees he sees what's there, and that means he has the ability to kind of see. Like he can see the deeper thing, so he can see the deeper thing. Like like it kind of it logically follows.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that maybe the other ones are a bit more kind of obscure.
Well, we'll get into that in a bit. So Peter tells Phil about finding the body of his alcoholic father, who has hanged himself, and having the strength to cut him down. And that's the thing. Like in that scene, Phil is still dismissing Peter. It's like, "Oh, you're not strong."
Yeah.
And obviously he's trying to bond with him by teaching him how to be a man. He still thinks that's the way to. He still thinks this kid isn't a man enough. I need to do to him what Bronco Henry did with me.
Yes.
That's what he's thinking. But this kid's different. Again, he can immediately see the dog, and he's talking about how what is real strength. It's not parading yourself around as this macho guy. It is perhaps cutting your father down who's committed suicide. And it's not about the showboating masculinity.
Yeah, it's a kind of a quiet strength.
Yeah, it's a quiet strength, and he's not interested in this toxic masculinity, and that's what allows him to get the upper hand on Phil, and obviously kill him, because Phil doesn't suspect that Peter would do something like that, and he is incredibly ruthless. I think Jane Campion described it as a David versus Goliath scenario.
Oh yeah.
And obviously, who wins in that story, Michael?
One Mr. David.
Yes, Mr. David, which of course is Peter in this scenario. And we can see it from the two incidents with the rabbits. Everyone thinks it's a cute pet, but no, he dissects it. And we see, of course, with him having a broken leg, this other rabbit, he puts it out of its misery by snapping its neck. And again, he's petting it, that snaps his neck. It's kind of what he does perhaps to Phil, metaphorically.
Yes, and of course, in that very process, when they're getting the rabbit, is when Phil gets the cut that ultimately becomes infected.
Yes, that is true. Yes, as well. So so that's the thing. Like in westerns, you have the macho. It's a macho off. Whoever's the biggest macho guy wins the battle. You have those shootouts. What are they called specifically?
Oh God, are they just called duels?
Yeah.
I feel like there's something else to it, but maybe it's just duels.
Yeah, no, yeah, when two people have guns and they duel against each other, and it's like a quick draw, whoever draws the gun first and shoots the other. And that right there is, how a typical Western ends, like how one person kills another. But in this process, it's because everybody thinks less of this guy, Cody Smith McPhee. Everybody doesn't think he has the ability to kill someone because he's not this macho guy, but he really does have the ability to kill someone. Again, he's got the power of the dog. He's got that power. And again, nobody suspects he has it. Nobody suspects he does because he's a gay little twink. So again, it's what this movie does. It's a massive subversion of the American West and its ideals and its myths. Like this guy can come out on top again and again, not by killing somebody, in a shootout. by doing it like sneakily, like by planning and plotting.
Yeah, like he basically uses the I suppose, I mean, what you could say, if you were inclined, is that Benedict Cumberbatch is kind of a slave to the expectation to masculinity, whereas Peter uses people's expectations relating to masculinity to his advantage.
Yes, exactly.
Which is kind of like the essential difference between the two characters.
Yes, again, that is very true. Yes, so that is an interesting thing that Campion has done, and yeah, it's a great subversion of that trope you see in old Western movies. So Rose's alcoholism worsens as Peter and Phil spend more time together. Upon learning about Phil's policy of burning unwanted hides, Rose defiantly gives them to the Native American traders, and then collapses. And obviously, Phil's infuriated, and again, it shows how Phil, deep down, he's not this macho guy because. Obviously, who would care? Why is he burning the hides instead of giving them away? Because he's just like, it's a selfish thing. It's a spiteful thing to do, which isn't a very masculine trait, is it? So
or it can be, but it's like the people who are literally like the people are like, I'm gonna eat twice as much bacon because you're a vegetarian, and it's like they like to think they're being all manly, but it's literally like they're just
it's childish,
making themselves less healthy for childish reasons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, the way George confronts him is just like. Yep, this is my brother being, like a child again, like being immature, which is good. So Peter pacifies Phil by offering him strips from the hide that he has cut, omitting mention of the hide's origins. Yes, and again, Rose doesn't want Peter to turn into Phil. That is her worst fear. And obviously, again, we see at the start of the movie, or we hear at the start of the movie that Peter wants his mother to be happy above everything else. So that's what he wants. So obviously he's going to kill Phil. That's what he's going to do. And Phil,
like that Tarantino film.
Yes, and now we're going to get into the love scene, as it's called. So Phil is touched by Peter's gesture and holds him close to his face. The pair spend the night in the barn, finishing the rope. Blood flows from Phil's open wound as he swirls in the hide in the solution used to soften it. Peter asks Phil about his relationship with Bronco Henry, with Phil saying he had once saved his life when they were caught in a freezing storm in the mountains by keeping him warm with his body. Peter asks if they were naked, but Phil does not answer. They later share a cigarette, which of course is a phallic symbol.
Yes, it is. Yes, I was thinking that, definitely.
Put it in each other's mouths, and once Phil's
smoking is pretty gay.
Yes, Phil is telling that story, by the way, and you can see him touching the rope, which is like another phallic symbol.
Yes.
And again, it's very clear. Again, I don't really think that Peter has to ask, "Were you naked?" Like the implication is strong enough, but he does it anyway, just to hammer it home. Oh yeah, they had a gay relationship, and that is pretty damn clear. And obviously, now it's clear Peter knows about Phil's gayness. And, again, Peter could have been Phil and Phil could have been Bronco Henry. But that would, again, I think, exacerbate the toxic cycle of masculinity that Phil had, that Bronco Henry instilled in Phil. And Phil was trying to, instill this toxic masculinity with Peter, but Peter wasn't buying it because Peter has the power of the dog. And again, that's just one interpretation of what that means. But anything to say on that, Michael?
No, I mean... obviously, him finding out that he's gay. We haven't covered this explicitly. Like, are we confident that Peter is gay?
Yes, because Jane Campion said he was.
Oh, okay, so she's kind of explicitly confirmed it. Okay, that was just an interesting thing because I wasn't really sure about that, whether or not he was kind of just like manipulating him with the entire idea of like entertaining the gayness. Okay, that was like just one question I had because obviously, like I say, the film. I don't think the film. Like, obviously, it's heavily implied, I know that. So, but regarding that kind of getting him to admit himself, also, I mean, I suppose the other kind of thing, he gets a small victory in that Benedict Cumberbatch is kind of, like, forced to kind of drop the act and be a bit more kind of emotionally vulnerable.
Yes.
So, he's kind of also, that's another example of him kind of, like, winning the kind of battle of attitudes.
Yeah, exactly, he gets him to drop his facade, because he's got the power of the dog. Only a few people can do that, and he's one of them. Yes. So Phil dies after he catches anthrax because of the hide that Peter gave him to finish his rope. Peter, and I like how the rope perhaps is similar to the hide that Phil has from Bronco Henry.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yes, and again, a gay guy dying from a blood disease.
I know. I was thinking that too.
Wow, what a subversion. Peter, who skipped the funeral of Phil, opens a book of common prayer to a passage, "Deliver my soul from the sword, my darling from the power of the dog." That's the title of the movie, isn't it?
That is the title of the movie, yeah. Crazy.
Peter stows his finished lasso under his bed and watches George and his now sober Rose return home and embrace. He turns away and smiles, implying he intentionally gave Phil the diseased high to save his mother's life. Yes, that's very obvious. Like, that's obvious what he did. Yes.
Yeah.
Again, it would have been more obvious, I think. I read that in an alternate version, it would have cut to his desk and it would show like anthrax in his medical journal.
Oh, yeah, that seems like it would be unnecessary.
Yeah, very unnecessary. Yeah, very clear. Yeah, he did it to save his mother's life. Because, again...
Yeah, what they should have had is the scene where then it cuts to him writing in his diary, and it's like, I did this to save my mother's life.
Yes. And, of course, his mother, she is the one female character in the movie. Or one of them... Not the one, the main female character in the movie.
Don't attack my Mackenzie.
Yes. Thomasin Mackenzie, yes.
Thomasin Mackenzie, yeah, I couldn't remember her full name.
Yeah, and of course she is an expression of femininity, and that fucking Phil's killing with his masculinity, with his toxic masculinity. So, what does the power of the dog psalm mean, Michael? What does it mean? You, of course, are a Christian.
Religious
what
man.
does it mean? Yeah.
You know what? I don't really know. There are like a whole load of psalms. And
really,
yeah, there are like 150. I don't know if you know that. So I was actually, I'm not gonna lie, like the one thing I could have done, which I didn't even do, was look that up. My theory would be, and this is like...
Well, I can just tell you.
Well, I would like to say my theory, which is going to be very unimpressive, which is that it's literally, it's literal. That was going to be my theory. That it's literally talking about an actual dog.
Okay, so it refers to David's foes, and to those who crucified our Saviour. In ancient times, dogs were seen as lowly pack scavengers who attacked the vulnerable. And again, this guy, Cody Smith McPhee, he can attack the vulnerable, but he's not a lowly pack scavenger, though. That's the thing. He's not, but he has the power to attack the vulnerable, doesn't he? Because at the end of the day, what is one of the traits of toxic masculinity? It is vulnerability. Like, you need to project this idea of masculinity because you yourself are vulnerable. Because, of course, it's projection, and if you feel the need to project, then obviously you feel like there's something wrong with you, so therefore you're vulnerable. And again, this is why it's a psychological movie, because of that fact, that fact that everyone, I think, knows about. It's a very easy psychological fact to grasp.
Yeah. On the subject, actually, of the old boy King David, there are like some interesting parallels to kind of gayness and masculinity in King David, mostly based on one, I mean, first of all, King David was a poet, which is already pretty gay. But second of all, there is like this theory that that he was gay with this guy called
Jesus,
with a guy called Jonathan. Which already, again, that's a pretty gay name there. So there's a guy called Jonathan, and David was potentially gay with him. But the interesting thing is that Jonathan was the son of Saul, and Saul was the king before David, and Saul was like a kind of stereotypical kind of a super strong, super masculine kind of guy, and David, meanwhile, was kind of a bit twinky and tiny, which is why he used a sling, because obviously, like, he couldn't use like a sword or anything like that because he was like really small. So that's why he used the sling. So it's kind of like you got all of those elements going on. So there is some interesting kind of thematic parallels there.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So anyway, let's get on to this. I got this from Screen Rant, by the way. So Phil is quiet.
My source for quality film analysis.
Well, I think this is true, to be honest. It's good.
Okay.
So Phil delivers stoic lines a few times in true style of the classic Western. Phil is non-confrontational, hiding in rooms with his banjo and letting his absence speak more than presence. He wields an intense psychological strength over the other characters in the film that is gentle and vicious. This is part of how the power of the dog subverts Western masculinity tropes, and it leads to the conclusion that the power referred to in the power of the dog is one of psychological force rather than physical. And that is, of course, one interpretation again, and yeah, I think it's valid, of course. This guy, you think about it, he's this macho guy, but when you actually think about it, like, he never beats anybody up.
Yeah.
Like, he beats a horse up at one stage. Not even though he just chases a horse out of the barn. But yeah, how he like dominates this ranch is through psychological domination.
Yeah, like it's subtle.
Yeah, the subtlety, like being a real like bitch. Like that's
he's a diva. That's what he is.
Yeah, Another perspective, the power of the dog might not be a character, but a set of harmful tropes, expectations, and perspectives from a bygone era of the American West. It is no secret that Campion's uniquely unsettling and meditative film is intended to subvert the cinematic conventions that usually go along with this type of content, which is why people like Sam Elliott are wrong about The Power of the Dog not being a good Western. On the contrary, it actually delivers itself and audiences from the power of outdated toxic masculine movie tropes, which is perhaps the most dangerous dog of all. Yes,
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's the thing. These masculine, toxic masculine tropes, or just masculine tropes in general, they killed this character. He was living on an unhappy life. He wasn't happy, and also it made him vulnerable to this guy who was confident in his masculinity. He didn't, he wasn't like insecure about himself, even though he was gay. Like, he got the upper hand and won. And so again, like, it is the ultimate subversion in terms of the Western, I guess, movie, isn't it?
I would agree. So like that kind of take of the power of the dog is kind of like masculinity that kind of permeates our media. And I would kind of agree. Like, and I would definitely say there are instances, for example, where kind of traditional expectations can constrain kind of media and artistic expression in a way that makes films worse. So in a kind of like meta sense, obviously the fact this is a revisionist film can only happen in a world where we're willing to kind of challenge these constructs. So kind of on a meta level that works as well, which obviously was kind of hinted at there with that comment.
Yeah. So let's conclude down, Michael. So do you want to go first?
You know what, why don't you go first? Because I always go first.
Okay, right. I think, again, this movie is like I said, the ultimate subversion of the classical Western movie. Obviously you have this main character, how he owns the ranch through these psychological means, how he obviously, this is a key thing actually I was going to mention, how he dies. Again, it's not in a shootout, and I guess we kind of mentioned it before with,
that's a good point actually,
Cody Smith-McPhee's character, how he wins not in a shootout, but he of course wins through this like sneaky little thing that he does.
If I were allowed to interrupt, since you brought something else up, I feel like that's like quite a common thing in a lot of like subversive media, where like the idea of kind of the glorious dignified death is kind of undercut, because that's obviously a bit cringe.
Yes, it's a smart opportunistic move from Peter's character, rather than like blasting him with a revolver. It's not a heroic death dying from anthrax, is it? And of course he himself, is a subversion, of course, because of his sexuality. He is interested in psychologically dominating people, rather than just being a quote unquote man and just telling this woman, can you stop playing your fucking piano, your shit. Like, he has to like undercut her and be passive aggressive instead of just aggressive. So I think, of course, it's about a cowboy in Peter saving his mother, and saving this this woman. That's, and doing it in a different way. Doing it in a way, again, which isn't like, kill the bad guy, get the girl kind of thing. And no, he's not going to be romantically attracted to his mother. But, again, it's just a complete subversion of what you normally see in Western movies. And if you look into the details, everything is nicely there. And so, I think I would enjoy watching it more on a second watch. Now we've delved into all of these themes, and that's what I feel like with these Oscar movies this year. Like, and it's the same with Coda. It's kind of the same with like West Side Story and Nightmare Alley, and even like Dune and like Belfast and Licorice Pizza. Like, they're not very heavy on themes, but this movie is very heavy on themes, and I appreciate that. I like that, because it gives us something to talk about, which is interesting. It feels like this movie is the first movie this year in our Oscar rundown, which feels like, this could contend for Best Picture. I see why people are saying this could be the best movie of the year. This feels like a really good fucking movie. So I think I'm gonna give it. I think I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10.
So for me, I think like the whole kind of subversion of Western thing is probably like just a general extension of it being about kind of an exploration of masculinity. But with that said, obviously it's a good kind of genre to choose if you want to kind of do this subversive thing about masculinity. Very good choice to go for a Western. Obviously, I think you've already covered everything that needs to be said about the Western thing.
It's based off a novel, of course. Yeah,
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't really know what the novel is, and maybe there's that kind of extra consideration of perhaps it's good as an adaptation. Obviously, you do get kind of like your Stanley Kubricks out there who will kind of really bring their own artistic voice to like another person's work, and I don't know if this is kind of a case of that, or if maybe this original book was actually very much kind of touching on these themes as well. But yeah, for me, obviously, yeah, like I say, the themes are really good. I kind of started this off by saying that sort of the plot in terms of like getting, I guess, emotionally invested in the characters is something which the film doesn't quite deliver on, but that is often okay in a film that's kind of dealing more with kind of thematic stuff, because then the characters are kind of just often sort of artistic representations of certain ideas, and you definitely do get that with basically all of the major characters representing something. Obviously, you get Jesse Plemons representing a kind of slightly more passive but kind of dignified masculinity. Obviously, we've already kind of covered the other two main characters. And then obviously you get Kirsten Dunst kind of representing women who are often the kind of victim of this masculinity. And obviously you also get the, fact that the film looks good, which I know we've already said it's cheating because it's New Zealand, but,
So
whatever.
what's the out of 10, Michael?
I was just going to say one other thing real quick. I was just going to compare it to, I was just going to say, because you mentioned, this is a kind of thematic film, and the first thematic film we really had. And it kind of makes me think about like Moonlight, because obviously that's a film that dealt a lot with masculinity.
Yes.
I would say this is not quite on the level of some of the kind of other thematic films we've looked at. I mean, obviously there's like really interesting thematic films like Parasite. I am going to give it a low 8, so similar to you.
Okay, fair enough. What are we reviewing next time?
Well, we are having a break, and I'll let everyone know that. But after that break, we will be reviewing Coda, which of course won Best Picture. And
yes,
boom.
Speaking of movies that have no themes,
yes.
Yeah, Coda. So join us for that next time. We've been selecting and reflecting on The Power of the Dog. A very good gay movie. So yeah, shout out to that. We can't do a gay parody of it on the
I know,
Gay.
that's unfortunate, yeah.
So yes, see you next time for Coda. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.